What if I told you that one of the most architecturally significant buildings of the 21st century is a parking garage? Not a museum, not a concert hall, not a soaring skyscraper, but a place designed for cars. Welcome back to UrbArchitect, where today we're diving deep into 1111 Lincoln Road, a project that flipped the script on what architecture can be, where it can happen, and who it's really for. Designed by the legendary Swiss firm Herzog de Meuron and completed in 2010, this 7-story open-air structure in Miami Beach has become a case study in how visionary design can transform the mundane into the extraordinary. But before we get into the concrete and steel, let's rewind and ask ourselves, how did a parking garage end up on the cover of Architectural Record? To understand 1111 Lincoln Road, you have to understand Miami Beach, a city that lives in a state of perpetual contradiction. It's a place where Art Deco pastels meet glass-walled condos, where retirees and club kids share the same sidewalks, where the Atlantic Ocean is both a postcard and a looming threat. Miami Beach isn't just hot. It's humid, tropical, relentless. The sun here doesn't just shine, it dominates. Air conditioning isn't a luxury, it's a survival tool. But Miami is also a city that worships the outdoors. The beach, the sidewalk cafes, the ocean breeze, these aren't just amenities, they're the culture. And Lincoln Road, the pedestrian mall where this project sits, is the beating heart of that culture. By the early 2000s, Lincoln Road had transformed from a mid-century shopping destination designed by Morris Lapidus into a vibrant, if somewhat chaotic, strip of restaurants, galleries, and retail. It was a place where people came to see and be seen, to stroll, to sit, to sip overpriced lattes while watching the world go by. But it was also a place that needed infrastructure. Specifically, it needed parking. Enter Robert Wennett, a developer with a vision that went far beyond just solving a logistical problem. Wennett didn't just want a parking garage, he wanted a landmark. He wanted something that would elevate the entire neighborhood, something that would make people stop and stare. So he did what any ambitious developer with a taste for the radical would do. He called Herzog de Meuron. Now, if you're not familiar with Herzog de Meuron, let me catch you up. This is the firm that gave us the Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing, the Tate Modern in London, the Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg. These are architects who don't just design buildings, they create cultural monuments. They're known for their obsessive attention to material, their willingness to experiment, and their ability to make even the most utilitarian structures feel like art. So when Wennett approached them with the idea of designing a parking garage, they didn't blink. They saw an opportunity. The brief was deceptively simple. Create a mixed-use structure that could accommodate parking, retail, and residential spaces, all while remaining open to the Florida climate. But Herzog de Meuron took that brief and asked a more fundamental question. What if a parking garage could be a public space? What if, instead of hiding cars away in some dark, depressing concrete bunker, we celebrated them? What if we created a vertical urban plaza, a place where the act of parking your car was just one part of a larger social experience? This wasn't just a design challenge, it was a philosophical provocation. The concept they landed on was radical in its simplicity. Instead of wrapping the parking in a decorative skin or trying to disguise its function, they would strip everything away and let the structure itself be the architecture. The building would be open air, naturally ventilated, with no need for mechanical systems or enclosed walls. The floors would be massive concrete slabs supported by an equally massive structural grid. All of it exposed, all of it honest. But here's where it gets interesting. They didn't make all the floors the same height. In a typical parking garage, every level is identical. Same ceiling height, same ramps, same soul-crushing monotony. At 1111 Lincoln Road, the floor-to-floor heights vary dramatically, from 10 feet on some levels to over 34 feet on others. Why? Because Herzog de Meuron weren't just thinking about cars, they were thinking about people, about views, about light, about the experience of moving through space. The tallest levels, with their soaring ceilings and panoramic views of the ocean and the city, became something else entirely. Event spaces, penthouses, galleries. Suddenly, a parking garage wasn't just a place to leave your car. It was a place to live, to host a wedding, to throw a party, to watch the sunset. The structural system is where the architecture really sings. The building is organized around a grid of massive square columns, each one roughly 3 feet on a side, supporting equally massive beams. This isn't delicate or refined, it's muscular, almost brutalist in its honesty. The concrete is board-formed, meaning you can see the texture of the wooden formwork imprinted into the surface, giving the material a tactile, almost handmade quality. It's a reminder that concrete isn't just a generic industrial product. It's a material with character, with history, with presence. The slabs themselves cantilever out in dramatic overhangs, creating deep shadows and a sense of weightlessness that seems to defy the building's massive scale. During the day, these overhangs provide shade, crucial in Miami's blazing sun. At night, they create a play of light and shadow that transforms the building into a glowing lantern, visible from blocks away. And because the building is open air, there's no separation between inside and outside. The ocean breeze flows through freely. You can hear the sounds of the street, smell the salt air, feel the humidity on your skin. This isn't architecture that isolates you from the environment. It's architecture that immerses you in it. Circulation through the building is equally thoughtful. Instead of the typical tight spiral ramps that make you feel like you're descending into some automotive purgatory, 1111 Lincoln Road uses wide, gently sloping ramps that are almost promenades. You don't just drive through this building, you experience it. The ramps offer constantly changing views of the cars below, of the ocean beyond, of the city around you. It's almost cinematic the way the perspective shifts as you move up or down. And because the building is open, you're always oriented. You always know where you are in relation to the street, the beach, the neighborhood. There's no disorientation, no claustrophobia, none of the anxiety that typically comes with parking garages. Now let's talk about the program, because this is where 1111 Lincoln Road really departs from convention. Yes, it's a parking garage. There are 300 parking spaces spread across the structure, but it's also so much more. The ground floor and parts of the upper levels include retail spaces, shops, and restaurants that open directly onto Lincoln Road and the surrounding streets. The two uppermost floors are residential penthouses, luxurious apartments with those soaring 34-foot ceilings and wraparound terraces that offer some of the best views in Miami Beach. And then there are the event spaces. Because of those variable floor heights, certain levels of the building can be, and have been, used for fashion shows, art exhibitions, weddings, corporate events, even yoga classes. The building has hosted events for Art Basel, one of the most important art fairs in the world. Models have walked runways suspended above rows of parked cars. DJs have spun records while guests sipped champagne with the Atlantic Ocean as a backdrop. This isn't just a parking garage that occasionally gets used for other things. It's a genuine mixed-use urban building where parking happens to be one of the uses. And that's the genius of it. Herzog de Meuron took the most mundane, the most unloved building type in the architectural canon, and turned it into a legitimate piece of urban infrastructure, a social space, a cultural venue. Materiality plays a crucial role in making this work. The primary material is concrete, obviously, but it's not treated as something to be ashamed of or hidden. The board-formed texture gives it warmth and depth, and the way the light plays across the surfaces throughout the day creates an ever-changing palette of grays, from cool silver in the morning to warm ochre at sunset. There's also glass, lots of it, in the retail spaces and the penthouses, providing transparency and connection to the street. And then there's the metal stainless steel railings and details that catch the light and add a level of refinement to the otherwise raw concrete. But perhaps the most important material is air. The open-air design means that the building breathes, that it's part of the Miami climate, rather than sealed off from it. This isn't just an aesthetic choice. It's an environmental one. By eliminating the need for mechanical ventilation and artificial lighting during the day, the building significantly reduces its energy consumption. It's sustainable architecture, but not in the self-congratulatory, look at all our green features way. It's sustainable because it's intelligent, because it responds to its context, because it works with nature rather than against it. The social impact of 1111 Lincoln Road has been profound. Before it was built, Lincoln Road was already a popular destination, but it was mostly horizontal. People walked along the pedestrian mall, stopping at shops and cafes, but there wasn't much vertical activity. 1111 Lincoln Road added a new dimension, literally. Suddenly, there was a reason to go up, to explore, to see the neighborhood from a different perspective. The building became a gathering place, a landmark, a point of orientation. Tourists come to take photos. Locals come to attend events. Architects come on pilgrimage, measuring the columns, studying the details, arguing about whether it's genius or gimmick. And yes, there's been criticism. Some people think it's too raw, too unfinished, too industrial. Some worry that by glamorizing parking, it encourages car dependency in an era when cities should be prioritizing pedestrians and public transit. Some find the whole concept absurd. Why spend tens of millions of dollars on a parking garage when that money could go toward affordable housing or public infrastructure? These are fair critiques and they're worth taking seriously. But they also miss something important. 1111 Lincoln Road doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's not trying to solve all of Miami's urban problems. It's not a policy document or a moral manifesto. It's a building, a specific response to a specific site and a specific brief. And as a building, it succeeds brilliantly. It takes a building type that is usually ugly, depressing, and purely functional and turns it into something beautiful, uplifting, and socially valuable. It proves that good architecture can happen anywhere, in any typology, if you have the vision and the courage to rethink the rules. The reception from the architectural community has been overwhelmingly positive. The project won numerous awards, including the 2010 Award of Excellence from the American Institute of Architects. It's been featured in virtually every major architectural publication, from Architectural Record to Domus to the New York Times. Critics have praised its structural honesty, its environmental intelligence, its social ambition. Some have called it one of Herzog de Meuron's best buildings, right up there with their most celebrated museums and cultural centers. And perhaps most tellingly, it's been imitated. Since 1111 Lincoln Road opened, there's been a wave of high-design parking structures around the world, from Los Angeles to Rotterdam, each trying to capture some of that same magic, that same sense that parking doesn't have to be invisible or shameful. At night, the building undergoes a transformation. As the sun sets and the lights come on, 1111 Lincoln Road becomes a glowing beacon on Lincoln Road. The concrete, which can seem heavy and imposing during the day, becomes almost ethereal, lit from within and below, the shadows deepening into pools of darkness while the horizontal slabs appear to float. The cars, too, take on a different quality. Their headlights and taillights trace arcs of red and white as they spiral up and down the ramps, creating abstract patterns of light against the concrete. It's beautiful in a way that's hard to describe, almost cinematic, like something out of a Michael Mann film. The building becomes not just a parking garage but a piece of urban theater, a stage set for the drama of everyday life. So what's the legacy of 1111 Lincoln Road? What does it mean for architecture, for cities, for the future of how we build? I think it's this: architecture is not just about monuments. It's not just about museums and opera houses and corporate headquarters. Architecture is about everything we build, including, especially the mundane, the everyday, the stuff we usually take for granted. Parking garages, bus stations, utility buildings, warehouses, these are the structures that make up the bulk of our built environment, and for too long we've accepted that they should be ugly, that they should be purely functional, that they don't deserve good design. 1111 Lincoln Road proves that's wrong. It shows that with creativity, intelligence, and a willingness to question assumptions, even a parking garage can be a work of art, a social space, a contribution to the public realm. It shows that architecture is not a luxury reserved for the elite, but a fundamental part of how we shape our cities and our lives. And perhaps most importantly, it shows that the best architecture doesn't fight against its context or its program. It embraces them, celebrates them, transforms them into something more. In an age when so much architecture feels generic, when cities around the world are starting to look the same, when buildings are often just shiny boxes with no connection to their place or their purpose, 1111 Lincoln Road stands as a reminder that architecture can still surprise us, can still challenge us, can still make us see the world differently. It's a parking garage, yes, but it's also a piece of Miami Beach's identity, a landmark, a lesson in what's possible when we refuse to accept the ordinary. So what do you think? Is 1111 Lincoln Road a masterpiece or a well-executed provocation? Does it represent the future of urban infrastructure? Or is it a one-off curiosity? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most surprising buildings of the 21st century, consider subscribing to UrbArchitect. We've got plenty more stories about the buildings that are reshaping our world, one concrete slab at a time.